Hey, hey, hey. What's going on, fam? It's Tuesdays with Tawana. Yeah, grateful that you are here. Grateful that you can join me on this day. Building community, one Facebook Live, one podcast at a time. Holla at your girl on this Tuesday, this day where we have another opportunity to share, another opportunity to breathe, another opportunity to try to get this thing right. Um, we are in some trying times right now, and in the midst of those trying times, we are in the midst of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And hey, sister, what's going on, Tony? And in this moment, for the month of October, I have decided to focus on domestic violence because it's often not talked about on the wide scale that it should be addressed, talked about, information shared. Yeah, yeah, we need to talk about it. What's up, Shantae? Good to see you, fam. Good to see you. Um, Yeah, I am. I am struggling a bit today, I must say. Hey, Cordio, what's going on? But community brings me joy. Y'all bring me so much joy in joining me on Tuesdays. I truly appreciate it. And talking about domestic violence is just not easy. It's not easy. So we'll take a quick moment to honor those who are surviving breast cancer. For this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I was going through some papers this morning, just some mail. It's time for open enrollment and all this, and I'm reading through stacks of paper. Hey Angela, good to see you. Hey Mama Lovey. Always a joy to see you when wisdom comes in the room. I'm grateful. And I was going through stacks of papers, and then I stopped and I was reflecting on people who where English is not their first language, older survivors that may not be able to readily comprehend or even have the patience or the wherewithal to go through the stacks of paper that I had to go through today, may not understand what open enrollment is, may not have family members who are available to help them and to walk them through this process. Thinking of those who live alone, who don't have the village, as my sister Christina pointed out last week when I was going through and escaping my abuser. I had a huge village, my seminary, my church, I, my family. So thinking about those breast cancer survivors and those who are in active treatment or those who have to um, be on some sort of public assistance where it's like filling out your whole life story and you're forced to be impoverished in order to receive benefits that you still have to pay for with the minimal amount of money that you may receive. So I just wanted to pause and bring that to folks' awareness, because if you know of someone and you want to be of support, it's great to give money. It's great to volunteer for these at these organizations that support those who have breast cancer and who are surviving with metastatic breast cancer or recurrences or the side effects from chemotherapy. But also sometimes people need someone to go shopping for them or to set a designated time of the year where How can I help you, beloved, go through all of your papers and help you to walk through this? Hey, Mother Carolyn. Hey, my brother Larry. Um, how can I help you go through all of these papers? Can I send a young person to shop for you? So there are other things and other ways that you can help breast cancer survivors, those who are older, those who are challenged with getting around, especially during these times of COVID. Um, those with immune compromised systems can't get out as often as others can. So, something as easy as saying, just go for a walk. We're fighting for our lives every day, and it's not that easy sometimes to just go for a walk because some people aren't wearing masks, some people aren't being tested, some people aren't taking the necessary precautions that need to be taken in order to keep me safe, to keep themselves safe, to keep those around them safe. So I just wanted to make honorable mention of that as we think about breast cancer awareness. Think about those who may be in need of help and support outside of monetary support. Like the Stomp Out Breast Cancer Foundation is a foundation, and the foundation gives money to those who are in active treatment, who are diagnosed with breast cancer and in active treatment. And that money goes toward whatever they need. We give grocery cards or Uber rides or have someone come in and clean their homes and we pay for it. So those are the things that Stomp Out Breast Cancer does. And I'm sure, no, I'm not sure. I hope other organizations are doing that. But Stomp Out Breast Cancer is paving the way for people, individuals, not only to donate to stompoutbreastcancerinc.org, hint, hint, but also to give of your time, and to think about those, how easily it comes for you to just run to the store or run to the supermarket or re-enroll for your health coverage and read through the litany of paperwork. It's not that easy for some, especially for some of us who deal with chemo brain. It takes me 2 or 3 times as long to read through a document, to read an email, to write an email, to write a post, to read through all of these emails because I really have to comprehend what I am doing. Hey, my brother Bobby, how are you, beloved? So that was my moment for Cancer Cannot and breast cancer awareness, honoring those who are surviving and honoring those caregivers and family members because we are all touched by breast cancer in one way, shape, or form. So let us build community around that and sharing with one another and showing some love, even if it's a phone call or a text message, just to tell someone I love you and I'm here for you. I love you, Tony. I love you dearly. Thank you for all that you are doing. I just posted for y'all to check out my beloved sister's makeup um, business and what she's doing for breast cancer awareness, and with the hashtag TD, because that's me, TD Cancer Cannot. Check her out or inbox her for more information as she continues to support breast cancer. Last year, her daughter made some beautiful cupcakes. I think last year, Tony did some beautiful makeup for breast cancer awareness, domestic violence awareness. This year, she did awareness for ovarian cancer. So she's doing her thing as she's building her empire. She's giving back and she's thinking about others and doing her thing. So let's talk about domestic violence. Let's talk about domestic violence. Not that it's easier to talk about breast cancer, because it's not, especially for those who are going through it. But domestic violence is even more challenging to talk about, to live with, to experience, to be a family member of, or a friend of, or a colleague of. Um, let's talk about Jonathan Price. Let's talk about Jonathan Price. If you don't know the story about Jonathan Price was tased, shot, and killed by police as he was breaking up a domestic violence situation in Wolf City, Texas. Jonathan Price was a young black man. 31, I believe. The fight ensued inside a store and then spilled out into the street. And Jonathan, as his friends knew him to be, was very supportive and loving and one of the best people that you could ever know, and went to break up the fight. And in the midst of that, I don't know the details. I don't really read or watch the news because it's very biased and tells a lot of untruths and paints us in a very demonic picture that I don't appreciate, so I don't support it. So I did not get a chance to look at some Black communications about the details, like through the Root or Black Lives Matter or other um, communication vehicles. I have not been able to take a look at that, but Jonathan Price was shot and killed. So this is a part of the layers of the challenges that we find when dealing with domestic violence. Not only is not only do I pause and think about the victim, where is the victim now? What is the victim going through right now? Hey, smoky girl, Darlene, I love you. Where's the victim? And what happened that made the perpetrator so brazen to start with this power and control in public? Right? Let's talk about domestic violence. Let's unveil it, because then it takes away the power from the perpetrator. Well, again, I wish there was a science to this. I wish there was a step 1, step 2, step 3. But sometimes when you unveil it and call it out, it makes the perpetrator even more brazen and more violent. So I wonder what happened in that moment that made the perpetrator become so violent and so angry in that moment. Hey, my auntie is on. Hi, Aunt Lorraine. So good to see you. So what made it in that moment so horrible and so horrific, um, where it had to be displayed publicly? And when we uncover it, there are times when, yes, it does take away the power. It does bring attention to the perpetrator. It does bring justice to the victim, where the perpetrator is then incarcerated and then, gets the necessary help that he or she may need. And the victim then gets the help that they need. And then there are some times when we call it out and we name it, it just makes the perpetrator even more angry. And then they take it out on their partner, because of what somebody else did. It may have nothing to do. The partner didn't ask for it. Sometimes the partner called the cops. Not that they asked for it, but the partner didn't do anything to cause it. Like he or she didn't call the cops, or So it's just this thing where the perpetrator makes up this whole world, like the whole world is against him or her, and then takes it out on the person closest to them, which in domestic violence is the person's partner. Darlene says, I know the story of Jonathan Price. It is sad. It is very sad. It is very sad. So I want to pull up this power and control wheel. It's just for visual, because I know that in this power and control wheel, um, it's hard to see, but I am going to the post it onto the website. But the green part is so the power and control wheel. Let me get my picture together here, because I want to be in the picture when I'm talking to y'all. So sorry. Okay. Yes. Okay. Here we go. There we go. The power and control wheel is this cycle and this is from the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The National Domestic Violence Hotline also has a website. The hotline itself is 800-799-7233, but they also have a website, thehotline.org, and you can get resources. As I stated last week, you can get resources if you are a friend or a family member and you don't know how to help someone who is in a domestic violence situation. You can always go or call the number to get some help. But the green talks about the use of intimidation, makes one feel afraid and unsafe, throws things, break things, damages property, and then goes on to using emotional abuse, where putting someone down and calling someone names. This is the perpetrator. Playing mind games, humiliates. And then isolation happens, controls what I do, who I see, what I read, where I go, who I talk to. And then minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of the abuse, doesn't take any concern seriously, denies abuse ever happened, shifts blame of the abuse to the person by saying that the person caused it, like it's their fault that they are being abused, that it's the victim's fault, right? In the purple, it talks about using children, if applicable, makes the person feel guilty about the children and uses the children to relay messages, threatens to take the children away or harm the children. In the pink portion, you'll see using privilege, treats the victim like a servant or acts like the head of household and makes big decisions. And then back to a different color green, use of economic abuse, prevents me from getting or keeping a job, or, the victim has to ask for money and never earns their own money. There's no real shared income. And then finally, another type is using coercion and threats, makes and or carries out threats that hurts the victim. So I wanted to show that the power wheel for several reasons, because there are several power wheels out there, and I think it's important to know. That particular power wheel was talking about the different types and the different modes of abuse, how it starts off with this manipulation and then blame and then, threats, and then they carry out the threat. Other power wheels talk about this honeymoon phase, and then things get, a little tight, some tension happening, and then the violence ensues, and then the I'm sorries, and then it goes back around again, the honeymoon phase, things get a little tense. So those things happen, and they may not happen in necessarily like that order per se, but it is a system. It is a way to do that. Like there is like this systematic thinking that goes on in the abuser's mind. Darlene says, I remember I was given the time to go, and coming from the grocery store. The store was the only thing where I was allowed to go. It was 1 minute over the time I was given, and I was beaten. I could see, wow, my family, the power and control wheel shown are very real to me. She said she could not see her family, just as a correction. She could not see her family. So we have stories, real life stories that are bringing to life what these power and control wheels and these efforts of domestic violence abuse is very meticulous, very methodical, very calculated, right? So when we think about domestic violence and we think about the victim and what really can be done, we know of survivor stories. Myself, Darlene is here telling her story, and there are countless others. And there are countless others who did not live to tell their story. In the power and control wheel, one thing that came to my mind was the the religious aspect of further perpetuating domestic violence with hierarchies, with patriarchy, with that power and control and manipulation. The dynamics of some religious sects speak to this male dominant role, this patriarchy that at times can be very hurtful to the spouse, and people dismiss it and ask questions like, well, what did you do to make him, in this case, so angry? Tanisha says, she's showing you love, Darlene. Yeah, please show some love to Darlene right now, holding space. Hey, my brother Dorsey, the Dr. Dorsey in the building. So grateful for him and his wife and his family who exemplify such beautiful love and support in all that I do, and I'm grateful. But when we think about religion and religious gatherings and hierarchies, there's a challenge there, right? Because sometimes they dismiss domestic violence as a part of their patriarchy, right? So how do we then protect the victim? Charles said the behavior of many brothers is grounded in an irresponsible and inhumane definition of authority. Absolutely. Absolutely. An inhumane definition of authority. When we don't know about domestic violence, oftentimes we find folks saying things even outside of the religious world or world of religion. We find that people may say, well, what did you do to make him so angry or make her so angry? Why did you stay out for the extra minute when you knew? So when we know better, we hope to do better, right? We hope that we can respond in a divine way, in a better way, in a righteous way, in a loving way, in a protective way, because it's very difficult to, as Jonathan Price has learned, may his soul rest in power, has he learned, it's hard to intervene in a domestic violence situation. It's very hard. So it's not so easy where I'm just going to go get my sister, or I'm just going to go get my brother. Well, that might not be the best thing to do, because you and the victim may end up getting hurt. So it's so important that we talk about these things, to wrestle with these things, to grapple with these things, so that we can notice these things. And when we have an opportunity to call that person in, like if me and the victim is going to the store or something, and I might have an opportunity to ask the question. And I also have to remove my own ego, because when that person says, well, T, just mind your business, I'm good, I can't take that personally, or I shouldn't take that personally, because they are defensive, they are scared, they are wounded beyond measures that we can even think about. So we shouldn't take that personally, and we should love them beyond measure, beyond that moment of denial, and keep an eye and be present, because that person may remember that moment when you reached out to them, and they may come back to you. They may come back to you and say, T, I need help. I need help. And you love me, and I need you to help me. Darlene said, oh yes, she's responding to Tanisha. She is a survivor. Yes, refused to be a victim. Telling my story to heal. Yes, 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 yes. And turning to God. Turning to God. I explained last time my story where I had to trust God in the process, because the process failed me. The system failed me. The system re-victimized me. From the judge to the court officer to the clerks to watching other people be further victimized. So I had to trust God in the process. Mother Carolyn said, "Thank you for teaching today on such a sensitive topic. Help us help somebody." Amen. Amen. And that's what we're here to do is we build community. I don't do this. I mean, I wish I did do this for the views and the likes because then more people would experience this conversation. But you won't get many people who are just openly talking about domestic violence. I haven't watched the NFL in like 4 years now, but I still don't believe they have a domestic violence Sunday. They're wearing pink for breast cancer. I'm grateful. But how much domestic violence have we seen in the NFL? And they're not doing anything. And as a matter of fact, years ago, I don't know if they still do this, but someone was penalized for wearing purple because I believe his mother was a victim of domestic violence. So you see how layered this is and how complex this is. It's not an easy, we can probably talk about this all year because there's always something, there's always a nuance. There's never a simple rhyme or reason on how to do this, how to get out, how to support, how to show love, how to keep them safe. How do you deal with the perpetrator? How? That's someone's son or daughter. They're a human being. They got issues. But how do you deal with the perpetrator? We're going to save that one for next week. Tony said, "I understand, but I love and show honor by allowing yourself to be vulnerable and share." That's to Darlene. Yes, Darlene, receive your flowers while you could smell them, beloved. We are surrounding you and loving you because I met Darlene. I told y'all I met Darlene during domestic violence awareness event. So we're going to talk about the perpetrator on next week. Yeah, so y'all get ready. But this week, we honor the life of Jonathan Price and we think about that victim and what's happening. I don't him or her right now. Is she experiencing further abuse because of all the attention now that she's getting? Or was she able to take advantage of this moment and escape? But what does escaping look like? Escaping could mean leaving everything behind. Your clothes, your roof over your head, to live in a shelter that if you don't act right or behave the way they want you to, they'll kick you out. I have a story about that as well. So we got to deal with mental health issues. We got to deal with healing. We got to deal with that piece of it. Because when the victim leaves, it's not just easy leaving. And then I start all over again and my life is all new and I'm celebrating. We're celebrating life, but it's definitely a long process to get to the other side safely, where you can continue to live and live life abundantly. I want to leave you with this. In my meditation time, it talked about healing and how the healing power of time. And not that time heals all wounds. This is a little different. And it talks about the healing power of time where um, instead of thinking about time healing the wounds, what are you doing with that time to heal the wounds? And time includes work, rest, play. So how are you resting your body and letting it restore and go through the cycles that it needs to go through to restore? What are we doing with that time to heal those wounds? Mother Carolyn says, Escaping could cost a life, to save a life. So much to deal with. Lord, help us all. Mother Carolyn, you said a mouthful right there. A mouthful right there. Darlene says, I know she's in deep pain. Not only did she try to escape the abuse, but the protector was killed in the process to save her. And not by the abuser, but by the police. So that's another layer that we have to deal with, right? Like if I'm, who's because of the color of our skin is a perceived threat. Who's the perpetrator? Are you assuming that I'm the perpetrator and you tase me and you shoot me? So I offer to you today, as we learn to live in the moment and really reflect on these opportunities of learning and then sharing, doing, learning, sharing, doing, learning, sharing, doing, learning, sharing, loving, doing. We go through that, that we really think about everybody's situation is unique. Just like a breast cancer survivor, you can put breast cancer survivors with the exact same diagnosis in the room, the exact same age, the exact same upbringing, if you will, and they will all have different stories about their healing. Each one. And it's the same thing with domestic violence. There are so many different ways that domestic violence is executed. We talked about mental, verbal, physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, you know, so many different ways. And within those ways, there are different ways to actually make it happen. So let's really take some time in what we do at that time, and really receiving the healing that we need in intercessory for those who are victims of domestic violence, standing for those who are on the front lines and being our protectors through activism and are killed by police. We stand in the gap for those, for healing and for justice, and praying that we are not judged. Victims are not judged, but they are supported and loved. Unconditional positive regard. I learned that in seminary. Love beyond measure with unconditional positive regard. So, beloveds, thank you for rocking with me on today. Thank you for engaging in dialogue as we talk about domestic violence awareness. Stand and hold space and pray. Pray for those victims. Pray for the perpetrators. Pray for the children. Pray for the families. And then let's put some feet to those prayers and begin to think about ways that we can offer support and help and a safety net for those victims, and get help for the perpetrators so no other person will be victimized by power and control again. I do want to leave you with this. Let us be mindful of domestic violence as a nation. The shit that we have had to deal with as the Black diaspora, right? The only difference is that we didn't get reparations and we didn't get an apology. The abuse just keeps going. They're missing a chunk of the abuse wheel. They continue to find different ways to marginalize us, to try to oppress us, to try to dehumanize us, demean us, degrade us, to use our color of our skin as a perceived threat, to use our socioeconomic class against us, to use our sexual preferences against us. So that abuse, that's violent. It is violence that we are experiencing when I have to pray hard, fast, and long when I walk out of my home, or I'm sleeping in my bed, or I'm going out for a walk. It is violence. And we have not heard an apology and then different actions to live out that apology. So let's keep that in mind as we build community, because we got to be there for one another. Domestic violence is not only in homes, but we are dealing with domestic violence in this nation as the Black diaspora. And my love and my heart goes out to us that we can build communities outside of our perpetrator and the abused hands of this nation. I love y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with me. Love is not supposed to hurt. Love does not hurt. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's truth. It's all of those things. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with me. Tuesdays with Tawana. I'm your host, your curator, Tawana in the building. God willing, I will see you next Tuesday. Much love to all. Thank you. Share this. Keep talking about it. Let's talk about domestic violence. Let's learn. Let's live. Let's love. Let's make it happen, y'all. Can't do this without you, and I'm so grateful for you. Love you. Later.